Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. I should see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today, where we'll be relaxing as per usual. A bit of a late night recording because we had D&D session today, group 1, which was an interesting one. I think it's probably the biggest sort of like upending of things I planned, but really, as I said before a lot with this group, is that I should expect for my plans to be upended. Which is why my plans, I think, are a lot more loosey-goosey with them, because it's just like, oh, these things could happen. But I'll get into that. Good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 11:12 p.m. on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. I'm not going to give spoilers if you're in the campaign or anything yet. I guess I'll warn you if I am. But to peel back the curtain, I suppose, behind DMing, I don't know if it's necessarily good DMing or whatever, but at least what I try to do is obviously, learning from things is like give the players a majority of different ways that they can accomplish a task or have things come to be. And for this group, essentially what they're doing is they are a little bit time pressured. They're not like extremely time pressured where they're like, oh, we had to do this immediately. But understandably, the characters will be like, we have to do this immediately. But they basically have like, so from where they are right now, they have like 8 hours, I suppose, to basically do something. From when they started the session, they had about like 10 hours. No, 12 hours. No, 10 hours to accomplish their task. Which was basically, they found like the location where things are happening. They basically had to get to that location and neutralize it. Essentially, there's like a strong undead threat going on for that campaign. And like, it's funny because at the end of last session, maybe 2 sessions ago or something, we had like a mini boss fight. It was a pretty difficult fight, challenging, and they were like, oh, then we're up against like tough enemies or something. We sort of like semi-scoped out the area, but they basically needed like a MacGuffin to get past something which was stopping them, a hindrance, which of course I as a DM put in because I'm just like, okay, we need like an artificial wall. I don't want to encourage them to be like, okay, fight mini boss, immediately go and try and fight final boss, because they are going to die probably if they don't prepare. So this is me putting like the sort of MacGuffin in, being like, okay, force them back to town, well, not back to town, but force them back to their headquarters, get them to talk to people, get them to plan, get them to go prepared, because they are going to be fighting a tough battle. And I feel like it was, fairly reasonably telegraphed in the fact that this is going to be the final battle. Everything is like leading up to this, the source of whatever problem they've got going on. And a lot of my brainstorming is sort of like, okay, what sort of things could they do? What could I give them to try and help facilitate this? They like did some really like nice sort of like charismatic things before to try and persuade allies to come in. So I was like, okay, they can call upon these allies, maybe, and then maybe they can bring these allies in to help. Maybe they could, like, they have resources at their disposal. Maybe they could ask for some like resources or things like that. Maybe the person, they basically have someone that they're working for, and I'm like, they built a good rapport, like, maybe they're like through there, they can get like health potions or maybe some weapons or something. They didn't ask, which is like fair enough, and like they very much felt like they're on time pressure, or maybe they didn't want to like overstep their boundaries. But the allies they invited, they did set up like a plan. They're like, okay, you allies, you help like create a diversion so we can sneak in or whatever. And they were like, okay, sure. But like, there were some really lucky rolls on NPCs, which meant that they got their MacGuffin like far quicker than expected. And then like the rest of my planning, like to pull back the curtain, is basically it takes place during a festival. It's not really spoilers, I suppose, because they'll see it anyway. And I was like, okay, well, they can also go around the festival, they can meet people, they can find things, they can get some items here and there from it, they can learn stuff and prepare in that way. Etc. Basically recruit an army, like warn people, I suppose, of impending danger or whatever's going to happen, investigate further. But there's also a thing where they're going, there's like a huge like labyrinth for them to investigate, where they can find most of it, I would say, sort of like lore explaining like what's going on, like seeing and pointing in directions of some things happening, like dropping hints here and there. And there's some supplies here and there, not like huge amounts or anything, because they're in like an abandoned place. But like, I think the most important thing is that they could get, one thing that they could get was like knowledge of exactly what's happening. This I'll peel back the curtain even more, but basically there's like a boss area sort of like hidden, but there's also another room which looks into the boss area and it's relatively hidden as well. So they could see exactly what they're up against, they could see what was going to happen, they could understand the story behind it, and they can plan better like what timings they have. But instead, what they did, which I should have just expected at this point, is as soon as they were done, like they ended last session planning with the group, with the allies they recruited, discussing with the person that they're working for, being like, okay, this is what we can do in supplies. And they started off with a little bit of planning, and then what they did is they just immediately ran to the area which they knew the stuff was happening, and they were just like, we're just gonna go. And they were like, oh, maybe we'll like scatter out or whatever, but no, they just straight up sprinted there. They got some good lucky rolls on their side, or like I wouldn't say lucky necessarily, just more like the dice were in their favor, and they got there, you know, without having to like be particularly sneaky. Like they weren't sneaky. They alerted all the guards. They just sort of like out-muscled the guards, and then they were just there, and they just like descended downwards, and then they just basically beelined almost immediately straight. Not like it was meant to be a labyrinth. It was meant to be a bit like they could get lost and turn around and like whatever, but they to be fair, I'm gonna give them credit, they did some smart things about asking contextual clues for the direction that they should go in. So, you know, if they ask clever questions like that, reward them, why not? But they ended up making like a beeline almost immediately to where the final boss room was. So I was just like, I'm a little bit worried now, because like I went in with this thinking that maybe they'd go in with a little bit more preparation, maybe they might have some allies here or something, maybe they scouted out, they would know what they're up against, but they, nope, straight up just in the room. And I was like, well, I can't do anything but just rule what happened, you know, at this point, you know. Especially because I basically made a post to my D&D groups to say, okay, you can't like undo anything now, we've done like the warm-up, you now all should be acquainted with what D&D and mechanics are. I'm not going to allow you to like retroactively change your character anymore. Because I was doing it like before when people were like, oh, I want this spell, or I want that spell, or like, oh, I didn't realize this feature, etc., can I redistribute my stats? And I was like, yeah, I will allow you to do that, because this is the first time most of them are playing D&D. They don't know what they like. But I was like, by level 5, you know, we've done like 15 sessions, they should definitely know what's going on. And nothing was more funny than one of my players going, what is an action? I'm like, come on, man, you gotta know what an action is by this point. But yeah, that ended up happening. And I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm not going to pull punches. What happens, happens. I'm going to be transparent, but, you know, if they're going to run into him, there's a decent chance they might die. And so they basically triggered the end of Act 1 fight earlier than I expected. I thought there was going to be other stuff or something, and it was going to line up more in time, but now it's being pushed prematurely. I suppose if you're in the campaign, you know, now you can click away for like mild spoilers, but essentially the thing was meant to happen like at midnight, you know, like around the deadline time, and I thought they'd probably arrive in my plans. They'd probably arrive like maybe a few hours before that or something, but maybe arrived like 10 hours before that, so it was like really pushed forward what happened. So who really knows? There's also more lore they could find out about what was going on, more clues, but I'm not going to spoil that because they didn't find it out. So it's just a really funny situation of being like, okay, this didn't exactly go how I was expecting it to go. And now I think there's a real chance one of them might die in the next thing, because this is obviously the Act 1 final boss. I expected them at least maybe to be a bit more aware of what they're going into or what could happen. But, you know, they don't. So... This boss could be very difficult, although I will say, you know, one of the characters immediately landed a critical hit on the boss, and I was like, okay, you know, maybe I should give him more credit. If they get more critical hits, this boss could be an absolute joke. But it should be relatively difficult, to be perfectly honest, and I don't know necessarily how difficult, but, you know, I'm going to try and, you know, I'm going to try and play how the boss would, and the boss would want to try and end their lives. So if they have to run, they have to run. And if you're in campaign 2, don't worry, your time for that is coming soon as well. Because now what's going to happen, I suppose, is we're going to have an Act 1 sort of finale, and then they'll have like an Act 1 epilogue, which will be a much longer epilogue, which will do the stuff which I thought they might do beforehand. Which understandably they didn't. Like, it took place during a festival. I fully expected them to probably ignore a lot of the festival, because, like, you know, they feel like we're on a time pressure. They kind of are under a time pressure. But yeah, it's just interesting. Like, as a DM, you can plan what you can plan for, and what you can't plan for, you just have to be like, well, we'll just sort of see what happens from this, hey? Not really much I can do about it. Like, one of the things is that they need, like, basically a way to dispel magic, because they, you know, like I had like a halfway through Act 1 sort of thing where it was like, oh, this is like, you know, gonna probably be what you'll be fighting up against, or like this is gonna be like the modus operandi of your opposition, you know. And then, you know, they learned about it, and it's like, oh, you know, dispelling magic would have made this a lot easier, but we didn't have access to that magic then. But this time we didn't, and I was like, okay, I knew this was going to happen, haha, I prepared for it. So those NPCs which could help them grant access to dispel magic, like 2 of the NPCs actually straight up just knew dispel magic as a spell, and one of them like could try and acquire a dispel magic scroll. They did do the one with that person knowing. They did find out one person knew dispel magic, and they did find out that the dispelling the person who went to go get dispel scroll is looking for one. But then again, they did also immediately run to a boss fight arena, so they're not actually going to be able to put any of that into action. Along with, did I say that with the other group? They were like, oh, you distract them so we can sneak past them, and like, you know, the other group is still probably waiting on their cue to like distract regards and slip by. It's just such a funny situation. Just like here's a plan, and then like here's their plan, here's a DM plan, you know. They don't need to necessarily overlap exactly, but you know, there's some like common elements here and there. I mean, it just all gets tossed out the window, and it's just like, well, okay, well now you're in the deep end, or we'll just sort of see how it goes. I will pull back the curtain even more. I think one of them will probably die, or at least I think it will be really, really close. They will have to get some good rolls, I think, on their side, for it to work out. Which, you know, fair, I suppose. It was over contingency that yes, this fight was going to be hard, and yes, I also wanted it that like they had a lot of opportunities for things that they could like sway in their favor, but if it didn't work out, it doesn't work out. So it's just like, okay, well, you know, it's just we'll just see what happens in the end. I don't know. I wonder if I should try simulating a fight and seeing how it goes, just to see if they're likely to die, if they're not likely to die. It's hard to judge, to be perfectly honest. I'll be honest, because I feel like I'm doing a lot of homebrew as well for the stats of things. Like, it's not just, oh, I'm doing a CR5 rating monster or something. It's like, oh, you know, I want an enemy like this, so I need to take like a CR8 monster, and I need to like nerf it down to CR like 5 level, and I'm like, is this too nerfed? I don't really know. It's all a big mystery. And tomorrow is history. I guess I'll also do my Neopets dailies. Did I do my Neopets dailies or not yesterday? I actually don't remember if I did or not, which would be catastrophic because it was the last day I needed to get the book thing, not the book, the goodie bag. Oh, phew. I did do it yesterday. Okay. How's the thumbnail art coming along, you might ask? It's coming along. It's I've basically done all the shading now. I just need to do the highlights and then like final touches, and I think we'll be good to go. So there's a chance it comes out tomorrow. There's a chance it comes out on Friday. I'm not really sure. It depends if I can be bothered to record the voiceover dub for it this time. At this time or not, because it's like, it depends when I finish. Basically, I would bet on it being on Friday, that you see it, rather than Thursday. So. Probably one more day of no thumbnail art. I promise you, I did want to do it for day 100, but then, you know, I was just busy on those days, which of course made it difficult, and I just didn't finish it in time. I'm glad that it's actually happening though. Like, it's actually plausible that the thing will be finished, and it'll be like, yes, okay, well you're actually going to see this thumbnail art does exist. I know it's been like literally a third of a year almost, and you still haven't seen the thumbnail art, but you know, that's on me. I would just have to start it earlier next time. I don't know, I guess it's a little bit draining at the same time, also drawing like 11, well in this case it's going to be 13 different characters in Animal Crossing. it's a lot, and I certainly don't have as much time as I did when I started the series, so I hope you cut me some slack in that sense. So really, what I should do is I should start the thumbnail art like 2 months, 3 months early. So I need to start years basically when I should start it. I didn't really think about that. That's far earlier than I expected. There's just too many things I want to do. It certainly didn't help that we've been getting back into Siege. So basically, like, a lot of times I would be like, okay, it's time to draw, and then like my friend would be like, hey, you want to play Siege? And I'd be like, well, okay then. Anyway, upended plans, loosey goosey. Well, what happens? Oh yeah, well, my own planning has become looser, I suppose, just to sort of like facilitate this. Otherwise, yeah, I'd go crazy trying to do it. I just find it funny, like, they had this whole labyrinth in front of them, and I was like, they might get, like, super lost in here, but, you know, whatever. I should give my players more slack, you know? Or more credit, sorry, is the word. You know, rather than, like, giving them this and being like, oh, they're so going to get lost here, they're not going to know what to do. Sometimes they just send it, and sometimes it will just work. Whoa. I just got an Akito card in Project Sakai. Oh, it's a realized one. I thought for a second it was the limited card in this banner. It was not the limited card in this banner. Which is a shame. A crying shame. But yeah, I don't know what else I was going to say to that, to be honest. It's just a funny situation. I find it a funny situation. I don't know how so many flowers and weeds around here. Apparently I've not cleared them up for ages. Takes some time to do some gardening around here, doesn't it? I also don't know why I left a path rather than putting the flowers down all the way to the end. I think it's because I wanted to do a rainbow walkway here, didn't I? Of lights, and I just never did. Must have been raining a lot as well. Weeds about the place. You also can't pay Leaf anymore, right? To de-weed everything. Can you? Because that used to be a thing you could do in New Leaf. You could pay Leaf and he would just like pluck all the weeds for you. Which was really quite nice, especially when you haven't been around for ages. Would have been expensive, but still. Sorry, I'm just thinking about D&D now. I got my other group on Friday. Which I don't. They probably won't go immediately into combat. I mean, they could do. They're kind of like they'll probably actually do this stuff, and then they'll probably actually end Act 1 with that combat. Which would be an interesting scenario, I think. Oh, I just realised that entire right side is an entire row of flowers, isn't it? Oh well, let's dig all these up, and well, let's not dig all these up. We'll save those up tomorrow. We don't have to do the rest of them today. You don't need to do all your gardening at once. We'll sell our inventory, and then we'll make the thumbnail art. And we're out of the episode here. Discarded plans, I guess, would be what I'm gonna title this episode. I'm not really sure. Something along those lines. It's just funny. It's just like, how did this end up happening like this? I don't know. Are they going to die for it? Maybe. I don't really know what I'm going to do. Like, it's a weird feeling just being like, oh, you know, as a DM, you know, obviously I don't want to kill the characters. I love the characters. I love the thought they put into them. It's really fun to play with them, and I've built stories, like, surrounding them. But if they just die, I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen, you know? Some of their stories are very interwoven into the plot. Do they just get abandoned? I don't know. Now I think about it, like, didn't they have that with, spoilers for Critical Role Campaign 2, by the way. Like, Matt Mercer said this exact same sort of thing. Where, like, spoilers, one of the characters was very integral, I suppose, to the overarching plot. And he died. And it was just like, oh no, what do I do now? You just roll with it. You just roll with it, man. You just keep it going. So let's see. This is number 2. And I'll say, I don't even know what to do as a doodle. I will do just a spot. And maybe like a ripped paper. For like a ripped plan or something. It's just so funny. This makes it seem more antagonistic than I intended to be. It's just more like a, I wonder what's going to happen now. Even I don't know. It's weird. You know, it's like watching like a really good show, being like, oh yeah, I wonder what's going to happen next time. Except for I'm the one in control of that show, you know. I'm kind of like the one who decides what ends up happening. And I'm like, even I don't know what's going to happen next time. It's all a mystery. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to round off this episode here, I think. Just make sure I title my time-lapse videos. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, Bye bye for now.